It's cooking! So wow. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. This is episode 19, and this is Cooking So Wow. Now, it's been a super long time, a lot of big life changes. But you notice my surroundings are different. I'm in an absolutely stunning kitchen. I'm actually recording in front of an island. My kitchen has an island now. Really nice counters, and the stove's right over here, so I won't be moving around too much now. I'm really happy to start making these again. And today I'm going to be making, it's called West African shrimp. It's inspired by that. But I kind of make it kind of into a curry. So just going through all the ingredients here. The biggest thing is the shrimp, of course. This is a pound of shrimp that I cleaned up. You can use any seafood you want. It just has to be something that's kind of hearty, but kind of light. Because essentially we're going to be mixing all this stuff together and then throwing in the seafood last. So you can use like scallops or something else, or white fish, something like that. And then over here I have some diced tomatoes. This is about 5 tomatoes. I actually got it on the vine here. Still smells good. This makes a huge difference with tomatoes. If you buy tomatoes and it doesn't have it on the vine, they spoil really quick. So it buys you some time if it's on the vine. So this is about 5 tomatoes, about 2 cups. If not, you could buy diced tomatoes in a can, 28 ounces. And then of course, we got some ginger here. This is freshly grated. This is about 3 tablespoons. 3 cloves of minced garlic. I use this from the jar. Of course, you can press it on your own. And then over here I have tomato paste in the tube. So this is really great. This actually keeps in the fridge for about 2 weeks. I find this better than using tomato paste in the can because that goes bad really quick. And then over here I have some jalapenos that I cut up. Give it some heat. Then we're going to garnish with lemon zest and also some cilantro and some salt, of course. So we have the spiciness and the saltiness. And then of course the coconut milk over here. So I'm going to be using the whole can. And then over here, this is cornstarch and water. So it's always about 2 teaspoons of cornstarch to 1 tablespoon of water. This is to thicken it up a bit. So I'm starting out with just a little bit, and then I can adjust from there. And normally, when you have the can of tomatoes, you'd want to drain this. But since I only used 5 tomatoes, I'm kind of stretching out a little bit. So I'm going to keep the tomato juice in here. But what we're going to do is essentially throw in some olive oil into there, and then cook off the garlic and ginger, make it really fragrant. And then throw in the tomato and the coconut and also the jalapeno. Let that simmer for a bit, reduce down, and then throw in the shrimp last. And then finish it off with that lemon zest to give it some brightness, and then the cilantro to give it some nice fresh flavor. So let's go ahead and cut over to the stove. So I actually found out that my phone has fast forward built into the recording. Kind of old when it comes to that. But that makes post-processing a lot faster, so I can make these videos easier now. So this was done at times 18 speed, which I realize is way too fast. But here you can see that started out with some olive oil, and then browned the garlic and the ginger, and then threw in the tomato paste, the tomatoes, and then the coconut milk there. And you just want to let it simmer for about 10 minutes or so. Stir it occasionally because you don't want anything to burn or get stuck to the bottom. And I mention it later, but this coconut milk was oddly chunky. Never had that happen, but it looks like it just got too cold. And again, you can always throw it in the microwave for a little bit, maybe 10-15 seconds at a time to make sure that it thins out. But in this case, I just kind of broke it up in the broth here itself. The only risk with that is at the end I realized that there were really small chunks of coconut, which isn't the most terrible thing, but does look a little weird if you're not expecting it. So if you want to avoid seeing little chunks of coconut, you just want to melt the coconut milk into liquid first and then pour it in. And then that little bowl I just added, that was the cornstarch in the water. So I noticed in this case, since I used fresh tomatoes, it was a lot more watery than canned tomatoes. So to kind of thicken it up a bit, I threw in some cornstarch and some water. And then in there goes the shrimp. So this was frozen shrimp. It said it was cleaned. It really wasn't, so I had to clean it up a little bit more. You'll notice on shrimp, there's like a brown tube, black tube going along the back and also along the stomach. That's like their poop and junk, so you do want to take that out. I have seen places, or even restaurants mostly, where they'll serve you shrimp and it still has it in there. You won't die or get sick from it, but it's really gross. So definitely want to take that out. And then there, the camera shook because I bumped it with a bowl. was actually cooking another meal on the side too while I was making this. You can see there as it simmers, it's taking in all those flavors. So the jalapenos in there, that fresh ginger and garlic. That's a really huge difference versus powdered because it gets really fragrant and it almost purees in this. So those tomatoes and the garlic and ginger, they all start breaking down and they get really soft. And if you ever wanted to take this a step further, if you threw in a stick blender, you could even blend this up into a nice smooth broth. But I do like it to still have some texture in it. And then here I'm throwing in some lemon zest. So that really brightens it up. And remember, anytime you're throwing in some sort of citrus, you want to do that at the end. Because if you throw in the citrus too soon and it's simmering for a while, it's going to produce a really off flavor. So always finish with citrus. You can see there the shrimp is already pink, so it's pretty much done. Remember, shrimp doesn't take too long. You don't want to overcook it because it'll become too rubbery. But finishing off with some lemon juice there too. And then also tasting to make sure it's good with the salt and pepper. And it turns out this is perfect. Alright, everything's done here. So over here I have the rice. You might have heard it during the recording. There's a rice cooker finishing off here. And I fluffed it up a little bit. And I put it in this wide bowl that we can kind of see everything. But over here, while I was cooking it, it did get a little soupy. Because again, I used fresh tomatoes instead of canned. So I did leave a little bit of that water in there. So what I did, like I mentioned in the beginning, was use some cornstarch and some water to thicken it up a bit. And it's nice and creamy here. And also, for some weird reason, the coconut milk was super chunky. I think because it was cold. Never had that happen before, but ideally what you would want to do, contrary to what I did, it still worked out. But you can also pour it out into a microwavable bowl, microwave it a little bit at a time. That way it goes back into a liquid and then add it in. But I'm starving here, I want to get this done. And it's all good to go now. So here's our rice. I'm going to go ahead and get some nice chunks of shrimp here. You notice I also used shrimp that was still raw. I usually prefer to do it that way. This was actually previously frozen shrimp. They were actually out of fresh shrimp for some weird reason. You know, COVID times and all. But I was able to get that. And then it said it was clean, but it really wasn't. There was still some poop in there. And I also took off the shells. So there you see. Got it on top of the rice, and then some fresh chopped cilantro here. You can be generous with that. I also added some pepper into the end too, because I do want it to be a little bit spicier. And then also did some lemon zest, and then some lemon juice. And then over here for the beer, this is a really fun one. It's called Healer Flip. It's a hazy IPA from Rogue. I really like the can design on this one. This dog's doing a sick flip here. But I'm going to go ahead and pour it into this glass. And this glass is really neat because when you pour stuff into here, you really smell the notes inside of it. I'm by no means a beer expert, but I think it's really cool to be able to pick up the citrus and the haziness of this IPA. And I always think IPAs go really good with seafood. Because remember, with seafood, citrus always pairs really well with it. But there you have it. Absolutely stunning tomato and coconut milk. Shrimp here over some rice and some fresh cilantro and lemon zest on top. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps me out. If you're not following, go ahead and hit follow. And as usual, this will be on my website, sowow.xyz. You can go over to the link in the bio to check out this recipe and see everything that I went over. And the way I like to do it is get straight to the point in the recipe, and then on the bottom I have like a little backstory to it. And you may notice this dish looks really familiar. I did make it before. I always like to try things out and kind of see how they work. Some changes I made this time is I did it all fresh, as much as I could. So I used fresh tomatoes this time, and I also used shrimp that wasn't cooked yet. I really like to use the shrimp that's raw and then cook it in this. That way it takes up more flavor. Because I feel once it's cooked already, it's really hard to soak up whatever flavor you have the shrimp cooking inside of. So I'm going to be doing more videos now that I kind of got settled in. Things are more or less back to normal for me. And we're going to go ahead and do more recipes like this. And also I'm thinking of doing something where instead of me trying it out behind the scenes, I'll try it out on camera. Because a lot of cooking videos you see it's like all polished and perfect, but I think it'd be really useful for people watching to kind of see where things go wrong and what you can do to fix it. Because with cooking, usually there's some way to salvage it one way or another. And again, thanks so much for watching.